I hear it's all about that bass, So today we show you how to easily install an external trunk sub in your G29 Z4 with an Alpha 1 amplifier. In the past, we had a G29 Z4 in the shop that had a full Alpha 1 conversion to get the best sound possible in their car. Well, we had another come in for the same treatment, but this time wanted to install an external sub as well. And with our Alpha 1 amp, that is no problem at all. This customer picked up a sub that he liked, but don't tell anyone, but we're gonna be releasing our own Alpha 1 external trunk sub pretty soon. Wink, wink.
Oh no, he did not just wink at me.
Anyway, Jarrett is going to be showing you just how easy it is to install an external trunk sub with our Alpha 1 amplifier. If you want to see how to install the amplifier and all the speakers in your Z4, go check out the video we released earlier in the year, link in the description. But without further ado, Jarrett, take it away. We'll start this installation with both side panels, back panel, rear trim, and floor panel all removed. All of these steps are covered in the speaker and amp install video linked in the description below. One of the most important steps is to make sure you disconnect your battery. With a 10mm socket, remove the negative battery terminal and set it aside. Step 1 is to do some trimming on your panels to run the leads for the amp. First step is to determine where you want them to run based on where you want to put your sub. For Jarrett, he opted here would be best. Using snips or a knife, cut a section out in the side panel. Then line it up and do the same with the back panel. Once the cuts are done, cover the edges with some tape to tidy them up. Slide the back panel back in place, since we're good with that for now. Now it's time to start running cables. On the passenger side, locate this positive terminal bank and pop the cover off. With a 13mm socket, remove the nut here. Slide on the positive cable and tighten the nut back down. Keep in mind that your cable and connector might look different depending on what you source for your install. Snap the cover back down. Find a suitable location to secure your fuse. Again, this may look different depending on what you source for your installation. Run your power cable along a suitable route to where the sub will be. Jarrett used cable ties to secure it to an existing harness, which will allow it to be hidden by the trim and panels. Jarrett continued that run under the storage tray and amp, and behind this factory loom strap. At this point, since we are near the amp, plug in your RAM out cable. The connector and beginning of the lead came in your original Alpha 1 kit, but the cable type and length is something you will source depending on how you want to install your sub. You may have to unplug the power from your amp to get enough room to plug it in. At this point, you could put the passenger side panel back in place. Slide it back in. Reinstall the cargo tie downs. And fasteners. Since your ground is going to have a much shorter run, you can measure that out now and cut it to length. If you're hesitant, it's never a bad thing to wait until the sub is in place to make sure you get the length correct. Jarrett took this opportunity to also attach the other end of the ground cable to the connector for the customer's sub. Again, this part may differ depending on the sub that you get. Back in the car, Jarrett decided to use this as a grounding point. Remove the nut, slide over the terminal of the ground cable for the sub, and tighten it back down. Back at the amp, plug in the RCA cable that you supplied. If it's too long, measure out the length you need and coil up the slack near the amp side. Take the rest of the RCA cable and run it alongside the power cable you ran earlier, continuing that loom with the rem out, power, and RCA cable along the existing factory harness as Jarrett is here. Make sure your cables are able to run through the cuts in the panels you made earlier, and trim everything to length now to avoid a jumbled mess of cables later.
Why did you leave me? I just trimmed the tool instead.
Get broken!
I guess it says max 1 millimeter diameter.
That's a little bit more than a millimeter.
Out of spec.
Jarrett is attaching them to the sub connector, but again, this may differ depending on the sub you get. Take this opportunity to tidy up your run for a clean installation. This sub came with a base knob for the front of the car, so if you have the same, feed a large cable tie through the rear like so. Tape the end of the cable that goes to the knob of the end of the cable tie. Pull it through. Secure the cable under the carpet on the side of the car. You'll have to remove some trim to do so, but it's easily accomplished simply by pulling up on the trim. Once you determine how much of the cable you need up front, tidy up the slack in the rear like so. Before putting the side panel on, Jarrett decided to cut a hole in this grommet to run the USB cable for the amp. That's not part of this sub installation, but in the event you see some random USB cable, that's why. Place the side panel back in place. Make sure the weather stripping is over it. Secure the tie downs and all of the fasteners. At this point, you could put the rear trim back in place. Snap it down. Make sure the weather stripping is over it. Plug in the light. And replace the fasteners. Reconnect your negative battery terminal. Replace the floor panel and the reassembly is done. Place the sub in the position you want and plug it in. Jarrett had to do this by feel with the position of the sub, but this may be different depending on the sub you get and where you place it. Once you're comfortable with the position, a good way to secure the sub like this without permanent modification is Velcro, like Jarrett is doing now. To install the volume knob, Jarrett found a good place up front. If you choose this area, rotate these two locking tabs and pull the trim down. Finish running the cable under the carpet, around the trim, and up and around here. Since Jarrett is planning on having the knob here, feed a large cable tie down like so. Tape the end of the cable to the cable tie like so. And pull it through. Jared plugged in his customer's bass knob and mounted it here. Tidy up the rest of the cabling. Reinstall the footwell trim. And side trim. The last thing to do is crank up the tunes and enjoy. And that is how you install an external trunk sub in your G29 Z4 with an Alpha 1 amplifier. As you can see, it's easy to do yourself with our DIY Essentials Kit and Trim Toolkit. Don't feel comfortable doing this yourself? Well, you could find one of our certified installers near you. We have them in about 30 countries around the world. Or you could bring it over to us if you're in the Orlando, Florida area, and we could do it for you. But as always, for more tips and tricks, product reviews, and so much more for BMWs, Minis, and Supras, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to ring that bell. Want to know what's happening first? Head on over to our website and subscribe to our newsletter. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok as well. Thanks for watching.